Hey everybody, and welcome to the Super Happy Intense Togetherness podcast. I'm Chris, you may know me as Sick Boy or my YouTube channel Gaming Anarchist, and here with me is my co-host is Atrophy of Soul. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. I guess probably a good opportunity to just tell the folks why we bothered to actually start this in the first place.
Yeah.
We are two of the most miserable gamers ever to walk the face of this earth. And everything sucks, and everybody sucks, and everything's overly politicized and irritating, and gaming's not getting as fun as it used to be. And just the environment online, and just everything's just... It's all about complaining, and it's all about misery, and I've decided... We both kind of talked about it and decided, we both feel the same way, that, you know what? I want to love gaming more. I want to get involved in what I like, and I want to just ignore a lot of that shit. And if I want to... sound off, whatever, great, but I want a forum to talk about things I like and why I like stuff and why you should like stuff too. So, got anything to add to that, Ben, or is it sounding good to you?
That sounds pretty good to me, honestly. I mean, there's nothing else to really say. We need something to regain our enthusiasm for gaming as a hobby.
Okay, perfect. So, kind of what we thought was we've timed this kind of intentionally so that we'll kick this off around E3, because this is always kind of it's like the reboot of the new year for gaming. So we've gone through. Now we haven't. If we don't talk about something, there's one or two reasons. One, it didn't particularly excite us, or two, we think it's absolute trash. So we're not going to cover anything that we just think is awful. Just stuff that's kind of caught our attention. So mostly we're going to kind of focus through and go through the big corporate presentations, and then a couple of other games from the event that we've kind of, that we've caught our interest.
Yeah, that should be good. So I guess we can start with we're going in order of when the conferences were aired, so we're going to start with EA right now. And EA did not have very much to talk about here.
No,
there was plenty to talk about, but there's not much that we want to talk about if we want to remain happy. So I think the first game that I'd like to talk about is A Way Out, because I think that was the only game at the EA conference that actually had any sort of heart to it. So it's from the same developer who did Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which was like this single-player co-op game, indie co-op game, which was very interesting, especially mechanically. The way they tied the mechanics to the story was really well done. If anyone hasn't played that game, you should. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, play the goddamn game. But A Way Out is from the same developers, and it's about two characters who need to break out of prison, from what I can tell, and they end up going on the run, and there's some sort of story about escape, and from what I could tell, it was like a co-op puzzle action game or something. But this is EA we're talking about, so we're not going to know how much of an influence they're going to have on the artistic credibility of the game, especially when compared to the previous work of this developer. So I think it looks pretty cool, but I think stylistically it's kind of bland. But yeah, I think it's I think it's an interesting concept for a video game. I hope that they deliver with it. I'm being optimistic. I'm trying to be.
Yeah,
God damn it.
At some point, we're gonna establish some kind of buzzer and forfeit for being too down on stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah. I mean, I'm interested about this. I mean, I think that it's taken kind of that Brothers had a really unique way of building a game, and had a really good way of using the controls in a really novel way. So if they do it in that way, and rather than kind of make it like an Uncharted kind of clone, which would not be as exciting with regards, creative use of the controls, essentially, a bit of David Cagery with regards to kind of having the controls make sense, but not David Cage, but as in something that in that way, and having that kind of co-op that would make sense. Yeah, it looks like it could be a fun game.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I was actually surprised to see something like that at EA's conference. But I would... I'm not going to say that. I was going to say I would have liked to see Dead Space, but a new Dead Space...
Well, yeah, not after the last one, you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be honest, there's not really much to talk about with regards to the others. I mean, there's it's sequels and iterative stuff, and The other thing that's kind of worth mentioning is the new BioWare game Anthem that could, has some potential. It looks, it's like a, it's clearly kind of a bit of Destiny in there with kind of, a bit of open world and jetpacks and aliens and, a big shooter game. And that, it looks interesting. It looks, it could be good. I mean, we don't know. It's how this is going to be, whether this is going to be, purely team-based or whether it's a persistent world. I don't really have enough on this to gauge whether it's got me excited, but it's got my attention.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's like drop in, drop out co-op, because at some point during the trailer, they showed like 2 extra characters just show up, like teleport into the world. I don't have a single iota of trust left for BioWare or EA, but
my hesitancy comes from BioWare are not really known for their, they're much more of an RPG, and they've tried a foray into action, and they've not, their shooting has never been their strength. No one really buys Mass Effect for the shooting mechanics. It's not really the big thing. It's the story, and it's more than it's anything else. It's not a shooter. It's not a third-person shooter. Nor is it kind of a, got any form of, like, third-person platforming, really. So this is a real departure for them, because, I mean, BioWare, they've come from such a pure CRPG background. So I'm interested to see what they can do with it. And,
Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive, especially graphically, especially if it's running in real time on the actual console. Apparently it was running on the Xbox One X, the most ridiculous name ever, but yeah, it was apparently running in real time there, and it did look very impressive, but we're just getting like a very small segment of what the game could be. I mean, this is what they want the game to be as the final product, so take it or leave it for what it is right now. It has a lot of potential, though, but we'll see. We will see. Well, I think that's a good way to end the EA conference. Yeah, there's nothing more to talk about as far as EA goes. So yeah, I guess we'll move on to Microsoft, which actually had quite a number of games in their conference, especially when we went back through it. I mean, like the first time around, I was like, well, Microsoft did pretty well, but when you really compare it directly to Sony, they did a pretty good job, but it's mostly third-party games.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely put together a better present. If you're going to say who's put the better presentation together, Xbox definitely have.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, they've made a big deal. They've made a really big deal about the the upgraded Xbox. Not the greatest of names. The Xbox One X. I did. There was one point during the Microsoft event that I nearly died, and I forget who it was. Called the Xbox the X-Bone live on stage.
Oh yes, I remember
and
that.
That was amazing, because Microsoft hate when you call it the X-Bone. They hate it so bad. So it was pretty damn funny when he went the X-Bone, the Xbox One.
God damn it, I forgot who that was too.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the clip. I'm gonna find the clip and just splice it in here.
Yeah, see if you can find it, because it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
It was such a. You must have gone back. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but in general, it was.
Yeah, it was a pretty good conference, I think.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're extending their backwards compatibility, with the original Xbox games. That they've really been good at putting that back in. After really, they didn't really have it with the 360. I mean, it was only kind of partial. Some games ran, some didn't. And then as the generation went on, none of them did.
Yeah. I really enjoy the way that they do it with the Xbox One, even though it kind of sucks, like when you do the backward compatibility thing, because you have to like download the game. Even if you own it, like it can't read the actual disc. It has to get it from online in order to play the game. But as long as you own the original disc, you'll be able to download the games from Xbox Live and play them on your console. But those things take up a lot of space very quickly. The Xbox doesn't have the best amount of hard drive space. But I mean, I'm very much looking forward to being able to play original Xbox games on the Xbox One. it'll give me a reason to go back and play my Xbox One. But I do hope that they have more obscure games available there, like Genma Onimusha or Panzer Dragoon or Shenmue, because I mean we don't really need to be able to play Halo 1 and Halo 2 on Xbox One because we have the remasters with the Master Chief Collection. I just want more obscure titles available on there.
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, they've done something that Sony have singularly failed to do. Ever since they remade the PS3 and removed it completely. I'm glad that it's taken them a long time to do it, but I'm glad they're doing it. I think it's some good news. They covered a load, and they covered a load of titles. I mean, some of these are exclusives, some of them aren't. But yeah, I mean, one of the first ones to kind of talk about was Metro Exodus.
Oh yes.
And I mean, if you haven't played the Metro games and you have any interest in survival horror or shooters, it's a hybrid of the both. It's based on an old Russian novel about a post-nuclear apocalypse living in the underground system, and it's, you know, the bullets are your currency, and they're so rare to get hold of. The graphics are beautiful. It was made by I think the team are a Ukrainian team, and they created one of the most beautiful games. And then when they remastered it with the Redux, it just looked even better. They managed to create such a beautiful game on a fraction. It was they've claimed about 10% of the average AAA game budget to make this game. And it's scary and it's tense and it's good fun. Literally the only criticism, we were talking about this before, the only criticism I can even come up with really is the English voice acting is not great, and you're better off playing it in Russian with subtitles.
Yeah,
it feels more legitimate as well.
Yeah,
but the game itself is just good. It's just solidly good, and you can pick up the Redux of the first two games for next to nothing, and just see how beautiful they look now. They still look.
Yeah, I think all of them look good, even to this day. Like, because I have all of them on Steam. I have the Redux versions and the originals, and they just all are very impressive looking games, even to this day. I absolutely just adore the look of the games and the feel and the gameplay systems going on there. But what I really loved about the trailer for Exodus was the atmosphere and the attention to detail and that feeling of isolation. It was, again, reminiscent to Metroid Prime for me. The way the character's visor reacted to outside elements like the saliva from the monsters trying to tear at the lead character, or the mere act of the character breathing actually fogged up the mask, which was really great. And according to Microsoft, the game was running in real time, again, on the Xbox One X. I think it looked absolutely stunning, but the demo was heavily scripted, so maybe some of the more subtle and nuanced animations, like the environmental destruction and things like that, might not be in the final release, but I do hope that it is. But yeah, from a purely graphical standpoint, that game impressed me the most out of anything at E3 this year, and it's also because the game wasn't afraid to be stylistic. On top of like the already like extraordinary graphical fidelity, it was really effective at striking a chord with me because of the style that they had, like an amalgamation of post-apocalyptic imagery with high fantasy and gothic settings.
Yeah, it worked in a way that better than like the Dishonored. Dishonored is less kind of immersive. It's going for a similar. You can see it's almost going for a similar feel with art style. But they've gone that little bit more cartoony with Dishonored, and it looks, cartoony. And Metro, they've done it in a way that it's very subtle, so it looks like a hyper-real game. But of course, as you said, the fidelity is amazing, but it looks like it's not stylized, and then when you look at it, kind of go, oh, it is. It's not kind of immediately apparent that it is stylized, which is good. And I mean, I really hope that they listen and they don't tack the Ranger DLC on as pre-order bonus.
Oh yes,
or DLC, because if you're into your hardcore gaming, playing Metro on Ranger mode is a challenge. It's really, really hard. It is merciless. It's literally like it's like hardcore mode in Fallout New Vegas, only it's a shooter. It's that level of unforgiving.
So good. It's really great. But if this demo that they showed off is indicative of the final product, I'm like 100% sold on this game completely. Day one buy for me. So I just thought the game was great. One of my favorites on the show floor this year.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Especially when you look at with E3, a lot of the trailers are they're clearly they're cinematic or they're just representative. They're not actually with this. I like when a game comes out of nowhere and it comes out of nowhere with a demo. I wasn't aware this was in development, and then it just popped out of nowhere to me. I may have missed the story. I may have missed it. It might be known to people, but I didn't know this was coming. And I was like, "Oh shit, Metro! Another Metro game, amazing." And the next one, I guess, is and again, it's a big change from what they've been doing for years. It's the new Dragon Ball FighterZ, going back to 2D, proper 2D fighting.
I think this is the game that I was most hyped for up until the Nintendo conference, anyway. But whoever decided to get Arc System Works to work on a sort of 3v3 Marvel vs. Capcom inspired fighter in the Dragon Ball universe is deserving of a raise and an endless supply of blowjobs, because
give this guy all the monies.
Yes, just give this guy everything, because this game is far more Marvel vs. Capcom than MVC Infinite.
It has that fun. It has that fun to it. It has that kind of party game atmosphere. That although you can play it competitively, it also feels like you can play it casually in a really fun way.
Yeah, it's oh god, the graphics engine that they used here, which is the same one that they used for the Guilty Gear titles, using it is just a stroke of genius. Like using it for a Dragon Ball Z game. This is the Dragon Ball Z fighting game that I've been waiting for decades now, since I was a kid, when I used to buy like Dragon Ball Z VHS tapes that would just release, which were $20 a tape and only showed like 3 episodes each, which was kind of bullshit. But I'm hyped for this game.
I mean, I enjoyed what they were doing with Xenoverse, but I'm liking this more. I'm liking this return to a proper 2D fighting game, because the 3D designs and all the flying and everything, it's fun, and being able to do the whole kind of Elseworlds, Dragon Ball stories, again, it's all fun, but this looks like a real improvement.
This looks fucking amazing. Like, I rewatched the trailer, I don't even know how many times, because it's just everything that a Dragon Ball game should be, in my opinion. It's just fast-paced, over-the-top, visually stunning. It has everything that I've ever wanted for a Dragon Ball game, and I just can't wait. Fucking Arc Systems, you are doing a great job. Cannot wait to get this game.
And the next one they were showing, the next thing that really kind of got our attention was The Last Night.
Oh, yes.
Which just looks like a beautifully stylized. Often that kind of pixel art style has been overused, and they've used it in a way to make it, in the past they've kind of made it. And normally, when I like the kind of the old kind of like pixel art style, I kind of think, okay, go back to, make it a 16-bit style game. But in this way, they haven't, and they've done it in a way that actually looks really impressive. And I like this idea, a dystopian, a nice dystopian cyberpunk world, one of those cautionary tales about going too far. A bit of a political message about self-censorship and shame culture and everything, and why not? Why can't we have, some people seem to be really angry if the thing even exists, and I think, well, you have to allow for a diversity of opinions. And why not have something that's influenced by 1984? Because that's one of the best, one of the most valuable books of the 20th century. So, a modern take on that kind of ethos, with an almost Blade Runner style aesthetic.
Yeah, it's very similar to Blade Runner.
Yeah, it just looks nice, and it's very rarely do I see a game that doesn't really tell you much with the trailer. And that actually makes me go, yeah, okay, this game is good. Nice little one-man band indie game, and it looks really, really good.
Yeah, just give the game a try. It looks like it's going to be really good. I'm not sure exactly how the gameplay is going to be, though. Is
Yeah.
it like a...
That's the thing. I'm intrigued. I don't know whether it's going to be point and click. I don't know what kind of style it's going to be. It's got my attention. I'm never going to be one of those guys who's like, buy it and support it and throw money at this company. Never going to be that. But this looks like a labour of love, and it looks like it's worth watching to see what comes out at the other end.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's totally worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, he did a great job with it. So just keep watching it.
Yeah, and the next one is it was almost a massive disappointment, but actually not. When this was first announced, when Code Vein was first announced by Bandai Namco, my brain started whirring that they might have bought the IP of Bloodborne from Sony, because oh wow, it's a game. The graphics look remarkably FromSoft. The graphics for the title that they used for the teasers looks remarkably FromSofty. It's published by Bandai Namco. Ooh, and then lo and behold, it looks like it's a third-person action game. It looks Souls-ish, and it's anime vampire girls. Could be a lot of fun. Could be awful. I mean, could be. I mean, there's some of those games. There's many of those kind of games. Those kind of anime girl brawlers, and some are great, and some are not so great.
It's like the kind of game that I might get on at a discount or something, but I don't think it looks bad at all. It's like a Weeb Souls or something.
Weeb Souls is definitely what it is.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, and if it's sound, if it's solid, if it's as good as a Neo or even Surge or anything, I would go I would go for that. I like me some Souls. I like me some hack and slash as well, so I like pure hack and slash, so, we'll see. But as long as it's fine, that's a buy for me.
I do hope that it does a little more than the normal sort of Souls games do, because when it comes to core gameplay, the Souls games are super basic. I think Neo is a more mechanically nuanced game than Souls is, but I think Dark Souls is a better game than Neo is. But I think if this game could find like a happy medium between like mechanical complexity and accessibility, I think it would be pretty cool. Like, I'd be far more interested in it if there was just more combos and things to do. But I do like the art design here, and I like the way the main character's mask looks at the very least. So yeah. I think it looks pretty cool. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I did. And I said that going back into the indie world for a minute. Again, we don't know much about it, but the Artful Escape looks like it could again be another one to have a little look at. It's that kind of, and from what I can tell, it sounds like the way the gun was it's a platformer. From what I can tell, it looks like a pure platformer where you've got a magic electric guitar that creates platforms as you jump, and it seems that it creates a dynamic soundtrack, which in of itself is pretty cool.
I do like the art design here. I honestly didn't know what the hell the game was when I first looked at it, so I was kind of iffy about it. But when I went back to the trailer and watched it again, I thought it looked like a pretty badass platforming game.
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Just it's a small. We're at that point now where these kind of small indie games they're at a point where they just look beautiful.
Yes.
They're no longer. It's not been. I mean, there's the likes of when Limbo came out. It was very art stylized and that had a lot of praise for how it looked, but it was very basic. And we're at the point now where these kind of really creative indie developers are creating some just beautiful games. They just look amazing, and as long as they play just fine, and if they play great, then incredible. But as long as, again, with that kind of thing, when you've got something so artistically beautiful and so novel, and hopefully, well priced, then why not? Like, you're a fool not to. I don't understand anyone who just kind of sticks purely to the AAA market and says, I'm not interested in anything of anything kind of, anything indie-rific, and go, well, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's like the indie market. Well, there are like tiers to the indie market, but a lot of these games are almost like back in the day when we used to have like the middle market. Where it's like a resurgence of that, because there's been a huge gap between indie and AAA for a long time, and it seems like a lot of these newer developers are doing a good job of combating that gap, or closing the gap rather, because a lot of these indie games are far more graphically impressive than a lot of the AAA games are nowadays.
And also, they have more creative concepts a lot of the time. And even when it's a game that is not the most in-depth game, take something like Stanley Parable, which is not, you could argue, not strictly a game, more of a narrative experience. That had more ideas and I had more fun with that than I could have with a huge number of modern AAA games. Like that, I got a lot of satisfaction, a lot of fun, and I was like really engaged with it. And for a game that was made, made cheap, well written, very creative ideas, great voiceover work, and told a story organically in a really interesting way. And that's what we need indie gaming for. Not even the downside, but it sets the trends. We'll talk about some games we're going to talk about later. That the influences clearly come from the kind of the indie blow up of the last few years has really heavily influenced. And then of course the companies just bash the ideas to death, which is the way of things, isn't it? The market comes across, oh, that's cool, let's copy it. Like I said, mentioning, who would have said a few years ago that Code Vein, it's a Souls game, it's a Souls-alike, or they just go, it's a hack and slash game. But now, Soulsy, Souls-ish, Soulsborne-y is now a genre. It's not really a hack and slash, it's not really an action RPG, it's something weird in the middle, and a lot of developers are pitching at that level.
Yeah, that happens every time with these sort of middle market games. I mean, Call of Duty was once one of those kinds of games. Until they ran it into the ground.
Speaking of which, I am so excited for Cuphead.
Yes. Cuphead.
I'm so excited for Cuphead. Cuphead all day, every day.
It's so beautiful. Jesus Christ. I love that.
A retro style 30s Mickey Mouse not Guilty Gear.
It's like Contra or something.
Yeah. So the other
or Metal Slug.
Metal Slug. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Metal Slug mixed with 1930s Mickey Mouse animation.
Yeah, it's a just gorgeous game. Holy shit! Like I've been waiting for this one for a while since they first announced it, like a few E3s ago, and I just fell in love with the look of this game. I don't even care if the game doesn't play very well.
It looks like it does. The animations look sound as long as the inputs are crisp. The animations look great, and this has now been announced that it's coming out in September. So, yay!
Can't wait for
yay,
that game.
Cuphead.
It's going to be great.
And then, lo and behold, the next game that, as just kind of to say go back on what we said before, Ashen again. I'm liking the look of Ashen, and it's Dark Soulsy. It's clearly a Dark Souls game.
Yeah, it's super Dark Soulsy, but it's very artsy at the same time. Like it has a nice art design to it. Like none of the characters have faces or anything. I don't know. I think it looks cool. I don't know if it's co-op though, or if you just have like NPCs running around with you. But it looks really awesome to me. I don't know what the story is about either. I don't know if like those two characters were like a husband and wife or anything, or I don't know. There's a lot that you can kind of, I guess, derive from the trailer, but I didn't watch it enough to do so. But I just think it looks cool. It's a cool looking game.
Yeah, definitely does. Going dipping back into the indie side is Super Lucky's Tale.
Yeah, that one actually surprised the hell out of me, especially being at a Microsoft conference. I initially thought that it was going to be a new Conquer game.
Yeah, it looked like a Rare game, didn't it? Really looks like a Rare game.
Yeah, it looks like a throwback to old school Rare. It's super cutesy, like a super cutesy 3D platformer. It's almost too cute for its own good. But yeah. I honestly love the look of the game.
I do. It feels it has a real feel of like the art style is a bit Conquer, a bit Crash Bandicoot. There's a lot kind of in there for that kind of cutesy style. A lot of people have been complaining because the game has come out and said it's no longer going to support VR, but I don't think that game like that should be in VR. I don't think that's the right experience for that.
Yeah, it's kind of strange it's there for... that it started off as a VR game. In all honesty, I don't.
Yeah, I don't get it.
That at all, but it really does remind me of the games released back in the PlayStation 1 and N64 era with the mascot wars back then. But it's like Banjo-Kazooie and Klonoa with a little bit of Sonic thrown in there
Yeah.
because the main character looks kind of like Tails, obviously because he's like a cartoon fox. So, but yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. I like it. Definitely pick it up.
The other one that's this is one of the two that we're going to mention. One that's much more direct, but almost in the vein of kind of taken, because Assassin's Creed 4 being, to me, the best thing that franchise has ever come up with, and mostly for the pirate stuff, is Sea of Thieves, and it looks like this is a bit different to the one that we'll cover later, but it's a much more kind of fun open world pirate game, and just looks like a PvP pirate battling game. What's not to love about that? That does sound like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because it has like supernatural elements to it as well, like shooting up skeletons running around. But I do hope that there's more to the gameplay, especially since the shoot speed was so slow on that freaking gun. The hack and slash mechanics seem pretty basic. Obviously, I mean the game is going to be pretty basic overall. It's just the experience of sailing the seas with your friends. I think that's going to make that game for people. But yeah, it looks cool. I'll pick it up.
And ganking people, you know.
Yeah.
Just raiding people and wrecking their day. You know, and that one, unlike Super Lucky Star, is actually a game by Rare.
Yeah.
That was Rare's entry at E3, surprisingly.
Well, it's good that they're actually developing a real game now instead of being forced to do Connect games for the rest of their careers. That was a pretty dark time for Rare. Jesus.
Yeah. They managed to fight their way out of the Microsoft dungeon and managed to get hold of some budget and go, can I make a game that's nice, please? Remember why you bought us? Because we used to make games that were good.
Yeah, you know, I actually did enjoy Cameo back on the 360. I thought that was a pretty good Rare game. Before they made Banjo Nuts and Bolts and just got relegated to being Connect fodder. But yeah, it's a pretty good game. Perfect Dark Zero is kind of shit though, but
yeah. I mean, you can forgive Rare for the stuff that they did in the N64 days was just so good.
Oh yes,
just so good. They revolutionized gaming at that point.
I still love GoldenEye with its 24 frame per second gameplay.
Yeah, even with its terribly, really cripplingly unbalanced characters for the multiplayer.
Odd Job.
Odd Job's a nightmare. Anyone who picks Odd Job at your party, anyone you're playing like go play some retro GoldenEye, so I'll be Odd Job. Like, just punch them in the face and throw them out. They hate you and they're here to ruin your time.
Yes.
They're here to ruin your party. They don't like you. The other one was next thing of interest was the sequel, Shadow of War, or the Shadow of War. That is an IP that came kind of out of nowhere, and I was expecting it to be trash, and I was again not too impressed with the fact that the marketing campaign in the original, those who don't know, they did some shady practices. They were paying people undisclosed to do undisclosed videos promoting the game, and and it got to the point where the FCC had to make a ruling and enforce that game companies have to make sure that these influencer videos have been clearly marked as promotional, because all of a sudden, and it was gamers who kind of worked it all out. It was people online kind of saw that all these big YouTubers all started releasing basically identical videos on the same day, talking about the Nemesis system. And to be fair, the Nemesis system was the selling point of that game, and it was the differentiator, and it was really good. It was a really novel way of having a game that you can essentially build your own sort of shadow army and then take over Sauron's army. It's good fun, and they've seemed to have evolved it with this one a bit more, and it created some of the most compelling gaming from a stock AAA game I've had in ages, when you're just doing a side mission and then some guy takes you out and then he becomes your mortal enemy, and then you're playing the game all of a sudden this dude shows up and he wrecks your day. They pounce on you, they hunt you down, and they just appear and pounce on you, and that was great. Having that kind of like, I'm just going to play this mission, and then all of a sudden one of your nemesis jumps out from behind with his retinue and just attacks you, and the way you killed him last time means he's immune to that way of death. So then you have to keep being creative and find new ways to take them out based on their fears and based on how you've already killed them in the past. And then you kill them 3 times and they're off the board for life. But it's just fun.
Yeah, it was a really creative game. That Nemesis system made the game completely. If it wasn't for that, the game would have been pretty generic for the most part. But Jesus, I absolutely loved that. Like, I would be stalking one of the enemies. I'm about to kill him, and then all of a sudden, some other dude just comes and just wipes me out, and I'm just like, fuck that guy, fuck that asshole. It was just such a well done way of making players feel connected to the NPCs. Or the enemy NPCs in the game. You don't see that very often. Like there's not really an emotional connection between you and the enemy AI in most games. But these guys had personalities.
But even with the antagonists, you don't often get that level of like, you bastard. Like no one gave. I mean, I didn't give a monkey's about going after the Black Hand of Sauron, but that prick who sniped me with a bow when I was raiding that orc encampment. That motherfucker I'm hunting down.
Yes, exactly.
And then he's equally hunting you. And that made for like so much fun. He spent so much time just going around the wilderness, just, you know, fighting these orcs that are out to get you. That's just surprisingly fun. And the last thing to kind of completely go sideways from that is to go indie-rific again. And the last thing in the Microsoft conference that I think is well worth talking about is Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Holy shit, that game!
It's fucking beautiful. It's so gorgeous. It like the original Ori games for anyone who hasn't, or the original Ori game for anyone who hasn't played it, is very Metroidvania-esque in the way that it's set up. I mean, you start off with a pretty basic character, and as you progress, get more and more powers, and in order to kind of revive the forest kind of thing. But and it was an absolutely I think that game is a fucking masterpiece. It's just everything about it is gorgeous. Like the graphics, the music, the gameplay is pretty much perfect as far as those kinds of games go. I mean, you can't really ask for more. And this one seems like it's going to be even better than that one. It's just such a beautiful game.
Oh my god, the backdrops, the level design just looks stunning. So good. It just has this beautiful art style. And if it's as long as it's a competent Metroidvania, and the last one was a good Metroidvania, it's a guaranteed buy for me. It's just looks that good, and it's just, you know, and it's interesting that it's got that mixture of, you know, that dark, depressing forebodingness and just cutesiness, in a way that it doesn't feel like lame and tacked on and saccharine. It's just, you know, and obviously they're out there to just try to yank tears out your face as much as possible. That's kind of part of why they make this game, just making people weep.
You know, the art design kind of reminds me of Studio Ghibli, or Studio, however you say it. I think it's Studio Ghibli. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it properly, but
yeah,
it's very reminiscent to that, where it's sort of like dark, but it's a juxtaposition between darkness and lightheartedness. I really enjoy that, and just if you haven't played the game, fucking play it. I think it's on sale on Steam right now too, for like 50% off the original.
Yeah,
so
yeah, if you've got the money and it's available to buy, it's worth buying. It's just a great little experience. It's one of those things that makes you just go, oh, that's someone's made that with real love and care and huge amounts of talent. Obviously, it's worth mentioning as well to say that although, and it's standard, unless if you're not aware, when it comes to these E3 conferences, so, you know, the Microsoft, they'll present a lot of games, and they'll often say, they might even say exclusively, and so Sony does the same thing. A lot of these games are multi-plat. Very few of those games were dedicated. Sea of Thieves is, I think Ashen's exclusive. Ashen's not exclusive.
No, was Super Lucky's Tale? Super Lucky's Tale. I
think Super Lucky's Tale might be exclusive.
Yeah.
For the most part, almost everything was multi-plat.
I'm not sure if Ori is Xbox exclusive, because I know it's on PC, but I don't think it's on PlayStation. I don't think.
Might not be yet.
I have to look that up, but I mean, every other Microsoft exclusive you can get on PC, so it doesn't really matter. Even if they did have mostly exclusives here, you could play them on Windows 10 if you felt like it. And eventually those usually show up on Steam. Not all of them, but a lot of them have showed up on Steam at this point.
Yeah. And to be fair, mostly the better ones do. Sony didn't have much to say. They kind of screwed the pooch on crossplay, which sucked. Really wanted them to be getting behind crossplay, and then going, oh, we can't do it. It's just too difficult. We can't possibly connect to Xboxes. Oh, you're just playing dick move. Because I mean, we already have Street Fighter V is already crossplay. Hell, the Xbox 360 did crossplay with that awful Shadowrun FPS. It's not the first. It's been done in the past. It can be done. It's just a matter of politics. It's nothing to do with architecture and network. I don't believe it's got anything to do with that at all. It's purely business and politics. So
yeah, they just want us on their network exclusively. So that's all it's about.
And I can't see that why, ultimately, if you own a PlayStation and your friend has an Xbox and you want to play together and you can buy the game on each of your machines and crossplay, why not? It's just petulance at this point, to be honest. It's a bad move. It's just not a consumer friendly move. It's just, why even bother?
Then again, that is sort of the pattern with Microsoft and Sony. Like, once one gets the lead, they kind of become arrogant, and then they start doing anti-consumerist practices. Then the other one is just all consumer friendly, like, oh yeah, come to us, we'll give you what you want, until they get ahead, and then they start screwing us over. Same pattern for years.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see with how the last console generation, everybody, the PS2 wiped the floor with everything. PS3, they just came along and went, yeah, buy it. Giant enemy crabs, get a second job. And then, wow, everyone turned away, everyone went to the Xbox, and then with the PlayStation 4, they just pwned Microsoft. And they've sold so many more units than the Xbox. And they're catching up. Microsoft are catching up because their offering has improved massively and they've revised a lot of what they do. I don't know whether the Xbox One X is going to help them much because the price is so high. I'd have thought that if it was me, I would do it something more akin to what Apple does, even though we're not really promoting Apple, but yeah, the price remains the same, and it's this year's Xbox.
Yeah, that would have been.
That is a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
That because they still have that gap. I mean, and Xbox suffers from they don't bring a lot of games in from Japan, and if you like Japanese games, PlayStation has a lot of exclusives purely because Microsoft doesn't engage with Japanese developers all that much, unless you're a Capcom or a Konami. But they don't really bring in Arc System work games very often, or I mean, obviously they have with Dragon Ball, but they very rarely kind of touch those really Japanesey developers.
Yeah, I think Microsoft is still holding over hatred for the original Xbox when they just kowtow to Japanese developers. And they had all these Japanese games, and they sold like 2 Xboxes in Japan. It was that bad. They were just going after the Japanese market so fiercely, and they failed so abysmally that I think at this point they're just like, fuck it, we'll just stick with the West.
Yeah, seems to be the case, to be honest. They're very limited in bringing across Japanese games, whereas PlayStation is Weeb Game Central.
Yeah, without a doubt.
As so was the PlayStation 3. It was just, you get so many varied experiences on there. But again, the business practices have got more and more shitty since before the PS4 came out. They won the day by standing up when gamers were speaking out and saying, I don't want yours online. I don't want your restrictions against used games and game sharing. Take that shit out. And they did. Because they had plans. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They had plans to do the same thing Microsoft were doing. And then when people got so angry at Microsoft, they just went, oh, we have no patents for really iffy kind of copyright software on our machines. I don't know what you're talking about. We weren't going to tag discs with individual codes that were locked to a certain hardware drive. No, that doesn't exist. That patent's a myth. But they did the right thing. They listened to when people told them pack that shit in, and it would be nice if they continued to listen. But They're corporations. What can you do? Ultimately, they're looking out for profit. And it's only when you threaten them with, I'm not buying your shit, then all of a sudden they go, okay, I'll give you what you want. So, well, you should do that every time. Then maybe I wouldn't have to shout at you. But one thing that there's a few games from the Sony conference that I think are worth discussing. One was one of the biggest shocks for me. I didn't know this was coming. I think, again, this was one of those big surprises that no one saw coming, was Monster Hunter World. Was holy shit, Monster Hunter is multi-plat for the first time ever.
I heard that because I'm not that into the Monster Hunter games. Like, I've played them a little bit here and there, but I have heard that people were complaining about the look of this one for some reason. Like, they said it's catering more toward the West or something like that. Like,
yeah, well, if they're going to go multi-plat, they will be. And I get it. And I think that a lot of Monster Hunter fans, they might do. They might be going, oh, this is it's jumped the shark. It's not good anymore. And that's what fans do that. When something gets popular, it's very easy to turn your nose up at it because, like, well, I liked it when no one liked it. Now you like it now? Well, like, fuck you. I'm the true fan, and I get that because I felt that about a lot of games where games I really am invested. I'm not that invested in Monster Hunter as I like Monster Hunter, and I'm more fond of it than I am big into playing it. But I respect it, and I respect the IP, and I have a lot of friends who are huge fans of it. I don't really have the time for it.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I have with it. It seems like a huge time sink. And I just can't put that many hours into a game.
I mean, just the idea of going out into the world and having these gigantic playing on the 3DS. Monster Hunter on the 3DS was just really good. Was surprisingly good. I was impressed. One of the things that impressed me about the 3DS was how it managed to make equivalents of Wii U games on the handheld. That was quite impressive, and they did that with Monster Hunter. They did a good job of that. But yeah, Monster Hunter's going multi-plat.
Yeah, this one's not even showing up on Nintendo as far as I know.
No, it might not be at all. Maybe they just keep. Maybe it's not technically going to be a main Monster Hunter game, and they'll continue with the main series on Nintendo consoles. And again, that will make the hardcore fans happy. Don't change the formula. I think this is where a lot of companies go wrong. Where the formula's going well, keep making that game. Don't change that formula. Keep that fan base, and then go for a separate game in the same franchise that's more accessible, that's more middle market. If you want to up your sales, do it that way. Build the IP and then go, this is, then do your, this is the accessible multi-plat version. Oh, if you're hardcore into it, get yourself a Nintendo, play on Nintendo. They should do that more. They could have done that with the kind of, if they did that, say, with the Dark Souls games. They could have had, people who got into that series who weren't really kind of into it before. A lot of the stuff that was in 2 and 3 took away from the fans of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls. Were kind of like, this is moving away from what I like. And again, it kind of makes sense to go, well, you make a game that's almost the same. Hell, just make a hardcore edition. Call it whatever you like. Give it a pretentious ass name, but develop the same game, and then, or just add it as a separate mode within the same game. Again, like some games where they offer you, the options to, remove certain features from the game. Like Hitman did that pretty well. You can go into the settings and remove all the hand holding. Just have it customizable, but so that the core experience for the user base is respected, because they're the ones who made your money.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a huge problem with a lot of games in general these days. Is the casualization, I guess, which kind of leads to the next game, which Dad of War or God of War.
Dad of War, but yeah, Dad of War still actually surprised me by looking impressive.
It's definitely an impressive piece
for a God
of
War
technology game. I mean, holy shit, it is a beautiful looking game, but to me, the gameplay looks so slow paced. Like it's almost like Souls inspired, which is a complete shift from what God of War used to be. Because like God of War used to be this really appealing hack and slash franchise because its mechanics were very basic when compared to other hack and slash games on the market. Like the core gameplay system was really straightforward, but it was fast paced and it was fun, and even though it wasn't like the most layered thing out there, the things that it did really well. The spectacle and all the set pieces and everything like that. But I suppose, like, given the fact that Devil May Cry like games aren't really popular these days, it's not really in vogue. The developers decided to take a different approach by looking at the gaming landscape these days and taking elements from the most popular action adventure games and sort of amalgamating them together into this new God of War, which is essentially what they did with the previous series. So I can't really say that they've changed their design philosophy very much, because this is what they've always done. But it is, I guess it is a bit surprising that they didn't take from the Arkham games, which I guess is a good thing. Yeah. But either way, I think it looks interesting, but and it might tell an interesting story. It's definitely going to have some nice set pieces in it, just like all the God of Wars. But
yeah, QTE laden and everything. But I mean, the boss battles, though they're big QTE fest, they are beautiful.
Yeah,
they are so so big and kind of glorious,
and it has some great music too. Like the older God of War games, fucking amazing soundtracks in those games.
And rumor does have it. It's not been confirmed by anybody, but there's certainly a rumor going around. A lot of people have been suspecting that it looks like a 60 FPS game.
I'm hoping it is. If it is, they did an amazing job with the technology here, because the game looks so good. And if it's 60 FPS, Jesus.
Maybe it's 60 FPS only on the PS4 Pro, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah, that's true.
But ultimately, if they do pull that off, even if the combat is a bit slow and if it isn't as hardcore as I might like, it will appeal. It'll appeal a lot.
I think it's going to be a very popular game when it releases.
Yeah, a lot of people like it because it's not as technically complex as a lot of other games. Yep. Like you say, that you could pick up. No one can argue that Devil May Cry 4 is not a universally better technical fighting game, slasher game, than anything made in any of the God of War games. Flat out. It's just not. And no one would say it. Anyone who says it is insane. But what it is a different kind of game. And it's more accessible, and it is more akin to letting someone just button mash and have fun as everything gets ripped to shreds. And for that, it's good for that. It's great for that. And it will always be that bit casualized. It's not designed to be, you need to perfect your timing and the nuance and everything. No, it's purely know when to block, know when to do your fatalities. Watch out for QTEs and mash X.
I am surprised we haven't seen any QTEs yet in the game. That maybe they aren't there this time around. I'm sure they are.
Or maybe they've calmed down the art style, because with the button taking up like 10% of the screen in the middle with a big light, maybe they're going to dial it back a bit and make it more intuitive.
I would have preferred like an evolution of the old style of God of War as far as gameplay goes, but I mean, I'll try this out. It looks cool.
Next one is the new Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man Arkham Neighborhood.
Yeah. I do feel bad because the Spider-Man games were one of the first big comic book franchises that did well. I mean, other than the old arcade style games, I'm not including the X-Men games and stuff like that. But I mean, like in the PS2 kind of era, comic book video games were not very successful. They were mostly cheap movie tack-ons, and they were awful. And then Spider-Man 2 came out. Spider-Man the movie 2 came out, and that game was just great. And they've not quite hit that level ever since. They've made good games with Spider-Man that are fine. I mean, the same developers have been making this franchise for years, and they lost it originally because actually I can't remember now. I think Disney have the distribution rights for the Spider-Man video games? Do they, or are they owned by Sony? I don't remember. There's a weird mixture of the ownership of the rights for Spider-Man, and I'm not sure how it's worked out. Because I know that when Activision lost the license to publish all the Disney games, they pulled them all from the shelves, and now they're starting to kind of creep back in. So I don't know whether it's licensed directly from Marvel or not. We'll find out. But it looks like, again, it's one of those games that if it's as long as it's competent, as long as it's fun and not kind of fundamentally broken, it can be fun. It's fun to play a Spider-Man game.
it's pretty impressive stuff. They had some nice set pieces thrown in there. It's almost like I don't know, like Spider-Man 2 meets Arkham meets Uncharted or something. The swinging mechanics definitely look similar to Spider-Man 2. I didn't see him doing any tricks or anything in the air like in that game, but I'm sure that it'll develop over the course of the game. I am a bit worried about the QTEs though. I'm hoping they're not too excessive. I'm pretty sure that they just showed off that sequence just to, impress everybody, because it was a nice looking sequence, but I hope that's not too prevalent throughout the game. I would have liked to see more just Spider-Man swinging around the city. I'm like wondering if there are NPCs walking around that you can save from criminals or stuff like that, instead of like saving a kid's balloon constantly like in Spider-Man 2. But yeah, I don't know. I would have liked to see just more of the straight up core gameplay than this huge QTE set piece that they have. I mean, it was impressive, but just show me more gameplay, because I think the combat was a pretty nice spin on the Arkham combat. Like, it wasn't straight up Arkham, but it's obviously Arkham influenced. So I like the way that Spider-Man was agile and jumping around and stuff like that. And it seems
as
to
he
fit
should
him
be
a lot more than it does for the Batman games.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think as long as they really integrate the webbing into the combat well, that's the key to a good Spider-Man game. Is the ability to pick up a box while you're fighting and smashing someone in the face with it. That's not just webbing people up when they're up to a certain level of health. Using it creatively and using it as a combat tool. That's the differentiating point of Spider-Man. That's what makes him, that's one of the things that makes him unique. So play with that.
Yeah,
focus on that, because
the way that he was webbing up some of the enemies during the stealth section was fucking awesome. The animation was kind of janky when he was fighting that huge guy, though, I will say. Yeah, good looking game. I hope it's really good. I mean, it's Insomniac. They don't make bad games for the most part. Besides maybe Resistance. Did they make Resistance? Resistance Fall of Man?
Didn't they? You're not a fan of Resistance.
Yeah, the original Resistance wasn't that great, but I know a lot of people like the second one's multiplayer, which I barely got to touch, but I did enjoy it. But I didn't.
Yeah, Resistance 2
had
had a really good. I mean, they had really good multiplayer.
Yeah, I know people love that multiplayer.
Was solid.
That's something that should get a remaster, honestly. Instead of Shadow of the Colossus, they should have remastered Resistance 2.
Yeah, the second Shadow of the Colossus, second HD remake of Shadow of the Colossus. That's bizarre.
Yeah, it was really strange. I was super surprised by that. I was just like, what the... Really? Didn't we just get an HD remaster of this game? Now we're getting a remake of the HD remaster? I don't know.
No, just for the record, I just checked. The new Spider-Man game, although it's called Marvel Spider-Man, is published by Sony Interactive. So yeah, it's owned by Sony. Next, the last thing that was kind of note on the Sony, other than another remaster of Shadow of the Colossus, which, to be fair, if you haven't played Shadow of the Colossus, play it. It's amazing. It's an experience of a game.
It's one of the best games ever made.
And a lot of people will shirk it off as boring before they get into it, and it's just because it's just you and an open world, your horse, and these giant monsters, and you climb up to the top and stab them in the head, and that's that, and that's all there is to it. But it's a lot more than that. You ultimately go, okay, I just got to find these monsters, and that's it. There's no mobs, there's no nothing. You're traveling across the world, finding these giant creatures, climbing up them, and the climbing mechanics are great. The game itself is just beautifully designed. So yeah, you get a chance to play that. It's great. The one thing that I've been looking forward to for a long time, and they've finally shown some gameplay, although nothing was particularly shocking to me, or it just looked like it should look, is Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts.
It looks like I expect it to look. The music's right. The combat looks good. It looks like, the casting looks interesting.
The Kingdom Hearts series is one of my absolute favorites, because on a surface level, it's super childish. It looks like a super childish action game about Final Fantasy and Disney characters, but once you really start getting into it, the game is pretty dark, and it's pretty nuanced thematically.
And equally, try and fight Sephiroth in the duel, and tell me that is a game for kids.
Yes. Yeah.
It's accessible for kids, but Jesus, the secret boss battles are insane.
They are ridiculous.
They are so challenging.
I still think the hardest one that I had to deal with was in Birth by Sleep. You fight this mysterious figure dude. He essentially has like 2 lightsabers that he swings around. The dude takes off all of your health in pretty much one hit. He can kind of like hit stun you and destroy your destroy your iframes. So Jesus, that I defeated that boss like because there's 3 different characters, so I had to deal with all 3 of them. But holy shit, that boss battle, I love it, but I hate it with passion. But that's some of the stuff that Kingdom Hearts is most well known for.
And equally, one of the things they did it very early in the first game, which really made it interesting to me, was where you didn't have to beat Riku. You fought him and then you raced him, and it didn't matter if you won or lost. But it kind of did, because I wanted to win. And that really did a good job of... And they were more... At that level, when you had no skills or anything, yeah, they were relatively challenging for a tutorial fight. And if you lost, you lost. And they keep score of how many times you fail. So it keeps score of how you're getting on. And that really showed it kind of like... You can just play the game, and it's forgiving. You can get through the game. Most... a kid with half a decent hand-eye coordination can get through the game itself. Like, a kid can get through it. And it's not that big a deal. But if you really want to complete it, well, holy shit, you've got to work hard.
The secret boss battle in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix against, what is it, Enigmatic Soldier or Enigmatic Figure? Whatever his name, it's the one guy from Birth by Sleep, but holy shit, that boss battle too, it's just... That is an experience right there. It's just... I absolutely love these games.
I mean, when was Vanilla 2 released? 2007?
Holy shit. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
So it's like... So if you consider all the 3DS games and the remakes, the re-releases, I'm sure it was 2006, 2007.
Kingdom Hearts 2, 2005. December 22nd, 2005.
So 12 years old.
Wow.
And we're just now getting Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, we've got the Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance and everything, They're nice and they're good, but they're not full games and they're not full entries. Been waiting for that game for a very long time. So, just be good. Just do what they did before. Just do what you did before. And bring back gummy ships.
It is a little surprising that wasn't shown at the actual show, though.
Yeah.
I don't understand that at all. Like, that wasn't shown.
Sony should have started off with that.
Yeah,
they should have done Monster Hunter World, God of War, Kingdom Hearts. And everyone would have lost their shit. Rather than going, oh, look, here's some Final Fantasy 15 swimming VR game.
Super epic freaking VR fishing game with metal music playing in the background. It's fucking ridiculous. That was ridiculous. I loved it though.
So why is that? Why
So
was that in the place of? Why did Squeenix pick that as their big thing? That I got to VR product, dude. How long you kept us waiting for Final Fantasy 15 for so long, and you kept us waiting for fucking Kingdom Hearts 3 forever.
Yeah.
God damn it! Stop, you prick teasers. I'm just glad they didn't bother doing a conference, because their conferences are cruel. They like show an awesome looking video and then they go, coming 2025 with no information whatsoever. So they just tease. One time, was it at E3 or was it another event? They came out and they announced they were going to make an announcement.
I remember that.
They're like, there will be an announcement in the 30 days. And then they, like, that was it. I was like, fuck you, dude. You don't announce an announcement. If you do that, you do it like the day before.
Yeah. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
They literally just came out at a conference. I can't remember what it was.
What was it?
I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember what it was. But I just remember being so pissed off that they announced an announcement. Like, you motherfuckers. Dare you.
The one thing that kind of dragged the Sony conference down was the focus on VR. Because I mean
their VR unit is good. And I think they're just going balls in with that to compete with Microsoft. And it's like, don't you remember the peripherals of one of the things that killed the Xbox compared to the PS4? Leave the peripheral alone for another year till there's some good. I mean, there's some games, a lot of games are VR compatible now. But until you've got a standalone VR experience that is so good, just leave it on the back burner.
And until it's more affordable too, because the the price that you have to pay just to get into playing VR on the PlayStation is insanely steep. And I mean, I understand why it's such a high price, but still, it's just it's not worth the price right now.
So I guess we need to go over Ubisoft's.
Yeah, we can do that.
Can we talk about how their new logo looks like dog shit photographed from the top?
Yeah, I love that image that somebody put up. I'm gonna have to put that on screen for anybody.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that.
Great.
It looks like a spirally dog turd now. But Ubisoft shocked me. It really did.
Yeah. The thing that shocked me about Ubisoft was that Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle looks like a fucking great game.
Yeah.
Can't get
What the hell was that? A casual
wait to get my
XCOM
hands
with
on.
Mario. The fuck is that? Like, I was going the arcade fine tag, and when it was first announced, I was like, oh my god, an arena shooter. A Mario arena shooter. Jesus. This is licensed shark jumping at its best. And then seeing, oh my god, it's a tactical turn-based shooter. Oh, I like. This is exciting. This is, wow, a cheerful, silly, funny XCOM.
Yeah, I
Shit,
freaking-
yes.
I love the way it looks, and I love the way it was presented too, because you could tell that the main director of the game had a lot of passion for it, and he seeing Miyamoto on stage premiering his game there, it was really emotional for him. So I thought that was a nice little moment for the Ubisoft conference, which went straight downhill after that. But it was a nice little moment.
And just I mean, obviously, been the first time, you know. I know it's not necessarily it's not third party. I mean, the fact that Mario's been licensed third party, even if it's only on the Switch, is still a massive step for Nintendo. It's the same way that they when they published Pokemon Go and Fire Emblem on Android and iOS. Actually, no, I don't think Fire Emblem's out on Android.
They do have a Mario game on there, I think.
Yes, and the Mario Run as well. That's it. Yeah. That was kind of a big step for them, because people for years have been going, out license your IPs. For the love of God, everyone loves Mario. And do you know, Mario is alright. It's a one-button platformer. It's simplified. It's relatively addictive. It's not the most challenging platformer ever, but it's, for a mobile game, it's pretty good fun. I think it's overpriced, to be honest. It's not Squeenix overpriced, where they charge you $15 for a remaster of an old game. But yeah. And the other stuff that was brought out, a lot of it was formulaic, but some, I can't say that I'm not interested in Skull and Bones.
It is an interesting looking game, but I'm not too into the pirate thing in the first place, so it would have needed to do more for me.
But then you didn't play Assassin's Creed 4, did you?
I played a little bit of it.
Alright. I played the shit out of Assassin's Creed 4 purely for the pirate stuff. And also because when you play it enough, you unlock a cheat code to turn all the enemies into rabid scarecrows. So they'll turn to raving rabbits.
That is awesome.
as scarecrows as well. So they're fighting you and they're hopping around with their swords, and that's funny as fuck. But yeah, the pirate side of that game was better than anything from any Assassin's Creed game. It was just fun, and they've clearly gone, yeah, let's make that. Let's make that as a game. It looks the same. And they've added multiplayer as well.
From what I saw, it did look pretty much 1-to-1 with Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But is this the same developer, or is this the same group of people who developed Assassin's Creed Black Flag? Do you know?
That's a good question. Let's find out.
Because it would not be surprising if it was. How many years ago was Black Flag 2? Because they could have been working on this
It was the first. It was 2014 release, I think. It was the first.
14.
It was a cross-plat. It came out on the last console generation and this one as well.
Yeah, I remember that. 14.
Ubisoft Singapore, so not the same developers, but still internal.
Gotcha. I'm guessing the people who did Black Flag probably made the latest Assassin's Creed then, maybe.
Yeah, it was at Ubisoft Montreal made that, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll play pirates. I'll play pirates with invasions, with multiplayer invasions of pirates. That I could play.
I'm wondering how, because I'd have to see more of it to get more interested, because they just showed the ship battle. So I'm wondering, like, when you sail into towns and stuff, like, can you talk to people, or is there like a bunch of side quests and things like that? As long as you don't have to climb towers over and over again, like in most Ubisoft games, I might give it a chance.
Yeah, ditch that. Ubisoft, please ditch that. You've done it, especially in Far Cry, because first-person platforming, when you can't see your feet, is just not fun. And I know that now you've added the gyrocopter, so you can just fly to the top anyway and just jump out, which is what I do now. With Far Cry 4, because you get the gyrocopter, you literally just hover above the tower and then just bail out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Jump onto the roof.
But, well, speaking of which, the new Far Cry
5. I mean, I like the idea of having it based in the US, having the kind of like shooting some cult hillbillies.
Yeah, radical preachers, doomsday cults.
Although I did like the fact that, don't want to get political, but I was amused the amount of people who were like really excited about the idea of like, we're gonna kill like Republicans.
Oh yeah,
and then they were like, oh shit, Republicans are the good guys. They're like, yeah, funnily enough, like the good old boys who live in this little like town don't want to be taken over by a cult, so they're getting in their pickup and they're going to shoot some people. How dare they? How dare they defend their town from crazy cultists?
Yeah, the best thing about this game, I think, is just the premise. I just really enjoy this entire Doomsday Cult premise. But again, it's a Far Cry game, so it's going to be the same thing for the most part. I did like the fact that the dog could steal weapons from enemies and give them to you. I thought that was a pretty nice touch. But I mean, it's Far Cry. I'll get it on sale.
Far Cry is fun. Yeah, Far Cry is as FPS goes, it's one of the more fun FPS games that's not made by Bethesda.
I mean, they need to go Saints Row 4 with Far Cry, essentially.
Yeah, well, they did with Blood Dragon.
That's why Blood Dragon was great. Freaking amazing. That's by far the best Far Cry.
They've even got
game.
Michael Biehn in. And that was amazing. Even started off with a Predator reference. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, it was. God, that was one of my favorite games of that year too, and it wasn't even a full game.
They kind of dropped off from doing that. It was stuff that started doing that because they did these games where they were doing cheap spin-off games using a game's engine. They kind of stopped doing it. They did it with Assassin's Creed 4. They did a spin-off. It was DLC, but they sold it as a separate spin-off as well, where you could play the ex-slave what's his name, first mate, and he can then go off and try and free slaves all around the West Indies, and it was its own separate standalone game, which was kind of fun. And of course, they did Blood Dragon, and they do those kind of things. That's good. They should do that more, but they've kind of stopped doing it. It's a shame because Blood Dragon was great, and if they did that again with the new Far Cry game, I mean, they kind of made Far Cry Primal, which was not really anything like the same thing of doing a spin-off with the same engine. You need to do a wacky standalone DLC kind of thing that's fun. Let your developers have fun. Now you've made the engine, you've invested in it all, you've sold it and made your profit. Now reinvest some of that and make something for them, for something to be fun, rather than to be massively marketable. They're cutting. It's cheap to make. It could have been expensive to make Blood Dragon, given new textures. They added stuff that they'd already been developing. They must have already been developing for Far Cry 4 with the baiting, with throwing the hearts of the dragons. That was all the bait system that was put into Far Cry 4. So it wasn't all that expensive to develop, and it was just hugely popular. And a lot of people went back and bought Far Cry 3 because of it.
I was hoping that they would just make a full Blood Dragon game. Just
big
Far
AAA.
Cry Blood Dragon, like AAA Blood
full
Dragon.
Full CGI and pay. That's where you'd pay your Stallones and your Lundgrens, and you kind of get Schwarzenegger and be like, do a voiceover, please. We'll pay you like $1 million for a day to do a voiceover for me. Just spout some catchphrases.
Yeah, that would be a day one buy for me as far as Far Cry goes.
I'm sorry, the last one on the Ubisoft list is the Fractured But Whole.
Oh yeah, South Park game. It's going to be good.
And another thing that's kind of cool is that the last one was pretty good. It wasn't the most in-depth or long RPG, turn-based RPG, but it was fun. And if you like, it's one of those things. If you hate South Park, you won't like it. But if you're indifferent or reasonably positive South Park and into dark humour, it's well worth a buy. I can see why if you're not a fan of South Park, you'd be turned off by it because the humour is so like the show. But with this one, I noticed that with this new one, and I'm not going to promote pre-orders, but the last game was good, and the day one release of the new game will come with a digital download of the last one.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know that.
I don't know if that's pre-order only or the day one edition, but it will come. It'll come with a copy of the last one as well. Stick of Truth, and it's going to be because the Stick of Truth wasn't out on current consoles; it was last generation. So it's a high def version, so it's a remaster. So a free remaster of the first game. So the purchase of both of those. Even if it's a little bit short and the status effects are a bit weird, it's not the most balanced turn-based CRPG. But fucking hell, it's funny. If you've even got even a slightly into South Park, it's amazing. The fact that it's written by the guys, it's made in the art style of the show. It's a proper labour of love. It took them so many years. And obviously, this one again has been delayed, like the last one was delayed for ages. I hope it's good.
I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty good because the other one was like a nice little turn-based RPG. It was pretty basic stuff, but it got the job done. I thought it was pretty fun. But yeah, this new one is... I'd be more into this new one because superheroes. I'm more into superheroes than kind of like
the Lord of the Rings
fantasy
parody
kind of thing. But yeah, it looks
it
like
shows
a pretty
how
good
long
game.
that was in development for.
Yeah,
I mean it's so long in development that it was back when like fantasy was the big thing. That was the big pitch. Whereas like if that was even on the table from like 2009 onwards, if the first pitch was in like 2009, it would have been purely superhero based. It'd be all comic books. But that's that ends the interest of Ubisoft. Bethesda was even less for me, to be honest. I think for you and I, well, we talked about this what we're going to pick out. We've actually only got a couple of picks for Bethesda because, to be honest, I've already played Skyrim enough times. I don't really want to talk about Skyrim anymore. I like Skyrim. I've played the arse off Skyrim.
I don't really like Skyrim.
More Skyrim.
I don't like Elder Scrolls though, so people are gonna hate me for that. But I don't know. They're time sinks to me. There's nothing mechanically interesting to me in those games. Just like, oh yeah, here's a world, free reign, just do whatever the hell you want. That's nice, but I mean, there's nothing making me come back to this game as far as mechanics go. So I don't care. I don't get that much out of just exploring these areas. They're nice to look at.
Definitely one of those games. It's not really great for people who are purely mechanically focused. It's definitely a game about dicking around. And if you can just switch off and dick around in Skyrim, it's fun. And if you're then going like, where's the beef here? Like, where's the goodness? Where is the combat? No, the combat shit. Combat's lame. The storyline is boring.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing too. Like, if it had a more engaging story, I might have played through it and I might have liked it more. But it's just like the story's not that great. The gameplay's pretty shitty here. So what am I doing with this game?
Walking around and shouting at dragons.
Yeah,
that's essentially what it's doing.
Yeah, I mean it's just like one huge power fantasy, but I don't really care.
And look at this. We said we wouldn't talk about Skyrim, and we've like gone on.
And there we go.
For a couple of minutes. So there's two things on the Bethesda that is interesting. First is Evil Within 2.
Yes, cannot wait for this game. I love the new aesthetic that they have with this sort of wax, with Sebastian being pulled down by wax, and I think it's wax that he's like playing in and stuff. I love that art design that they have in the Evil Within, like the imagery, and I've seen some screenshots of like an all-seeing eye in the sky that he's like looking at.
Yeah, that was in the trailer as well.
Oh, okay.
It appears in the sky. The only thing that it doesn't really matter because if you played one, the spoiler's been given away. But spoiler alert for those who haven't played Evil Within, but it's been out for a couple of years now. You should have played it. But as it turns out, you're inside a software, a software construct created from the people's minds, and so in Evil Within 2, it clearly shows glitching like reality glitching, that kind of Assassin's Creed style kind of reality glitching, and I felt that was a bit too heavy-handed. I'd like to not see that. I'd like it to be taken as a surreal world, not you're in a computer. Shut up. Let's not do that. Let's focus on the surrealness. Like, oh, I'm over here now, open the door, now I'm in a different place. What the fuck? This is disorientating and weird. That's better. Even if you already know what the solution is, that makes for more... for me, it just makes for more effective horror.
As long as it's used in like one or two scenes, I wouldn't mind it that much. But if they're
if it was ubiquitous, it's going to be a bit irritating.
Yeah, it's going to get to me. But I don't know. I think it looks really good. I enjoy the fact that they're going with a more personal story about Sebastian this time around, because you got all this information about like his family and stuff in the first game that's never really resolved, and this one seems to be going headfirst into that storyline about his like wife and his daughter and what happened to them. So again, definitely interested in what's going on there, and of course the gameplay. It looks like they've improved it, but I mean we've seen very brief glimpses of the gameplay. I'd like to see like a stage demo or something of somebody playing the game. But as long as they refine a lot of the stuff that was a little glitchy and weird about the first game, I think this one will be really good and much more well received than the original was, because the original seemed sort of unfinished.
Yeah, and the original felt a lot like we were like, oh, it's just Resident Evil 4 again, and it's not really. They've taken a lot. Obviously, Shinji Mikami's taken a lot from Resident Evil 4, but it is distinctly its own thing. But it was not the complete product I hoped it would be. So hopefully this will be a better one.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. So hopefully,
yeah. And there's another sequel that it's not even arguably, it is the original FPS franchise. And now we're at Wolfenstein number 2 now. the second one since the early 90s. And this sequel's more of the same, so great, It's a great gaming tradition of shooting Nazis. And they've managed to tap into making it fun rather than serious. And they've really kind of evolved it. So, yeah, I like it. I'm happy. I've been happy with all of the id shooters since, after Rage. Not including Rage, everything that's come from like an id IP as a shooter has been great fun. Shadow Warrior was great. The new Doom was great. They're all, even though they're not all developed by id, they've all been good. And even Rage was pretty good. It just wasn't quite what I was hoping it could be. It was a bit lacking.
It was kind of boring for me.
Yeah, it had like the shoot, like the mechanics and the crafting was great and it looked beautiful, but yeah, exactly, it didn't grab me. I was hoping it was going to be more frantic, more just kind of like you're shooting through endless hordes and using your razor boomerangs to take them out. Like that would have been more fun if it was more over the top, which is what I think they've learned, which is why Doom was just brilliant. They just went let's go back to old school, just balls out madness.
I think that might have been my favorite game last year, which just Doom.
It was really good.
It was just so
really
good.
It was so surprising how good it was. Because I remember thinking, like, when I saw it wasn't Machine Games making it, I was like, oh, that's a shame, because Wolfenstein was brilliant. I hope Doom's going to be good. I mean, it's made by id, but they hadn't made much. Their games recently hadn't been fantastic. So, yeah, very impressed with that. Really good. Totally sleeper game of the year.
Yeah, I was a little worried with Doom with the beta, the multiplayer beta too. Like that wasn't that great, but when the actual single player dropped, it was just like, holy shit, this game is fucking amazing.
Yeah, Doom 2016 is one of it's not quite as fun as Brutal Doom, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
There were a couple of other games that we kind of picked up on. There's a lot of games that they're not getting much coverage. Just not going to cover everything because we've all been doing this for the best part of 2 hours now. So, there's not really go through all of the games, otherwise we'll be here forever. But there's a couple of games that we saw that are kind of worth talking about. Do you want to talk about Dissidia?
Oh yeah, Dissidia Final Fantasy, PlayStation exclusive that they didn't show at the Sony conference that they should have. Because
what is Sony doing?
Yeah, I don't understand what the hell they were doing. They could have used these in those VR slots. It's being developed by Team Ninja. Same guys who've done Neo and Ninja Gaiden, and it just looks like a much more expanded version of the PSP Dissidia games. And I'm pretty sure it's online multiplayer too. Like you can just battle each other. But it's the way that the other ones worked is they're RPGs, but they're action games. They're like action fighting game RPGs. It's like a weird hybrid. And you choose your character. You can level them up by beating opponents. As you level them up, you get more moves. Like you can button map new moves into your character, and they'll be able to do, like, instead of Blizzard, they'll do Blizzaga or whatever the hell. So it's a really interesting fighting game and very over the top, very fast paced. So it's fucking awesome to see it on a Sony like on a mainline console instead of a handheld. I think this is going to be freaking amazing. But again, Sony didn't give it really much time. So
this is kind of the problem with some of the best Final Fantasy games have been the spin-offs, like Tactics. Tactics is amazing, and even Crystal Chronicles was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I like that one.
And yeah, they're not the main games, and they don't get that push. I'd say it's Final Fantasy Top Zero again, when they put the remaster out for that. Really good game.
I just played the intro to that one though because I was too obsessed with the 15 demo. But from what I played, it was really good. And the targeting system actually worked properly in that game, unlike in 15. So that's cool.
Yeah. Actually,
that's
arguably
nice.
the better game.
But yeah, Dissidia looks pretty badass.
Yeah, and there's another one before we go on to the main event is the Call of Cthulhu game, and it's a bit formulaic because it looks Outlast-ish, and it's got that kind of amnesia effect. But then all of that has come from the kind of H.P. Lovecraft stuff. But it looks intriguing. It looks like messed up, and again, you've been playing with the insanity side of things, and it looks like, what you're seeing shifts and morphs, and it looks creepy and weird. And it's very much in that kind of current trend of horror, of the first person, the Resident Evil 7s, Outlasts. But hell, a new Cthulhu game that's good would be terrific. So yeah, I'm excited to see that. More of this, please. I'm watching.
Yeah, it looks very similar to Amnesia, though.
Yeah, it does. It had a real feel of Amnesia. And obviously, Amnesia is a Lovecraftian game anyway.
It's very akin to that kind of game, so I'm guessing there's zero combat in it. You have to run away from all the enemies. There's going to be a lot of puzzles. Like that. I think it's going to be Outlasty, Amnesia-y. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that.
But not Amnesia Machine for Pigs. It looks like it's better than that.
Oh, let's hope it is. Jesus. I hope it's good. I hope they do more with the sanity stuff, like more crazy effects, more akin to something like Eternal Darkness. Just the way it screws with your head. Like, I want it to screw with the player.
I want it to play. That's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
Fucking up with your day, making you feel uneasy. That's what it should be. The whole point of it is the eldritch horror is so extreme, the human mind can't handle it. Fuck with the player. That's what Eternal Darkness did beautifully. They need to do that. I think if they did that, this could be, just a great horror experience.
It could be one of the best.
And that shit, that's the sort of shit that you put your Oculus Rift on and just end up getting sectioned.
I hope they do something like that, but we'll see. It might be kind of generic, but again, it does look cool. So
yeah, generic doesn't necessarily mean bad as long as it's got the right ideas and it's done well. Then I'm happy. And now for the I think we probably both agree on this. Who won E3?
Yes,
and I think Nintendo just won.
Yeah, and
E3.
without a doubt,
with very little effort, to be honest. It just came out.
It didn't take much at all.
No, just that they had to announce a couple of announcements. Just fucked with my life. It was just amazing. I'm not going to go into it for too much, but Xenoblade Chronicles, Xenoblade is great. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 should be good, terrific, great. Looking forward to seeing that. New Kirby game.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Same here. It's just such a fun game, lighthearted.
It's such an underrated genre. It's such an underrated game as well. It's weird little genre on its own. This kind of no-fail platformer, cutesiness, but has a great amount of depth and skill to master it. It's a good game. It's a good franchise. I like it.
It really is. I'm surprised it's not more popular than it currently is because Kirby Superstar on the Super Nintendo is fucking amazing. Jesus.
Yeah.
Like 5 games in one or something. It's just
so good.
Such a good game. So this just looks great. I love anything Kirby, honestly. I don't think he's ever been in a bad game, honestly. The Yarn one was super slow paced, but it was still a good game.
But it was challenged to complete fully.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the thing I was saying. Like, you couldn't die in that, but you certainly was a challenge to 100% the game.
Yeah, that's the thing I really love about these guys. It's the same thing with the Yoshi series as well. They're kind of lighthearted, but if you really want to finish everything, they will fuck you over.
And again, with the Yoshi game, which again they announced, they showed footage of that kind of fabric-y look, world and everything. I mean, they like that. They've got a big thing for their textiles, their textiles games.
In the new Yoshi game, can't you like flip the entire map or something like that to get different perspectives? So it's kind of like that Super Paper Mario, I think, on the Wii.
Fez.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's like, yeah, it is. But it's like that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
and I like Paper. Cool. I like Paper Mario. I like that. I like that whimsical side of Nintendo a lot. I do like that. I look forward to that. And they announced something that they didn't show anything, so I'm not going to be hype as much as I'm going to be hype for the idea of it. But a Pokemon RPG.
Yeah, mainline.
A proper third-person mainline Pokemon RPG on a home console, on the Switch. Holy shit, I've been asking for that for years. And the closest we've got was Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Snapshot and all that crap. And I'm sorry, that wasn't up there. That Pokemon Snap was just not up there. Or what was the Detective Pikachu one? Oh no, that was on the 3DS as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was.
But so just wanted again, just take an open world, a 3D open world, put the Pokemon in it. That's a thing. Make that a thing. If this is what I think it could be, essentially a big open world RPG with Pokemon in, that's amazing.
Especially if they add a multiplayer element to it, where you can go into the Pokemon Stadium and battle people. That would be a
console seller.
Ah, okay.
I would. There's a lot of games on this from this event that make me want to buy a Switch outright. And the idea of a Pokemon RPG, when I saw the finished goods, that could be enough to sell me on a Switch on its own. And then, holy shit, they announced Metroid Prime 4.
Yes. This.
I mean, again, they showed nothing. They showed us nothing.
They just showed us a title
just
card.
Metroid Prime 4. And for those who don't know, I mean, Metroid has appeared in different. Is he quite keen? Obviously, the Metroidvania, the 2D side-scrolling, platforming puzzler where you kind of unlock the map as you go. And then when they did Metroid Prime on the Wii, and they just reinvigorated, turned it more into a first-person shooter, and a first-person shooter again with exploring and backtracking and all the kind of aspects and scanning things for information, and it's just a brilliant game. The first 3 Metroid Prime games are just great. And they revitalized Metroid.
This was by far my favorite announcement at E3, and it was just a friggin' logo.
Yeah, and I'm so skeptical when that happens. When those things happen, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But it's like, holy shit, you've listened. Because people have been talking for years going, make a Metroid Prime, make a Metroid Prime. Fuck Other M. I don't even give a shit about didn't even give a shit about a 2D Metroidvania style. Give me a Metroid Prime. And then, yeah, Metroid Prime 4. Holy shit. Do it right. Do this right, and I will buy a Switch.
The only thing I'm a little skeptical about in regards to Metroid Prime is just that it's not being developed by Retro. But the thing is, like, most of the original people who made Metroid Prime aren't at Retro anymore. So, I mean, no matter what, it would have been developed by new people.
As long as they have the right amount of reverence and understand what made the games good. Just do that. Just stick with the spirit and make a good old game.
Because, Jesus, the Prime games are some of my favorite games ever. Like, it's probably top 2. Like, the Metroid Prime games are somewhere up there. I still can't choose.
And which is saying that, knowing you, the fact that it's an FPS.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that your best franchise of all time is essentially an FPS.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Yeah, it really is, because there's just... I don't think there's a game that recaptured that feeling of like isolation and loneliness that Metroid Prime did for me, like back in the day.
Literally, not to mention it again like a gushing fanboy, but Dark Souls. It's one of the few games that gave you that kind of like, oh, I'm alone in a terrifying world that I'm under-equipped and I'm overwrought and I'm buggered.
In two ways, it's really similar in regards to Dark Souls is in the way that it feels super lonely and kind of like the whole world is against you, and the way that the story is told to you, like it's super organic. Like it's not really told through cutscenes or anything like that. You have to actually go out of your way to learn the story in Metroid Prime, and the same thing with Dark Souls. Like you have to read, you have to actually do some reading.
You have to look at the architecture and the area and infer stuff, and yeah, it's a game that you're dropped into a hopelessly hostile environment, and you against all odds succeed because you're Samus. Damn it!
Exactly. It's so fucking great, and just the way that you unearth the plot just through exploration and just examining environments and everything. I just hope that they can recapture everything that made the original trilogy great, because if they do, this is going to be like one of the best games ever made. I hope they can do it. I really hope that they can do it.
And also, they're making a 3DS Metroidvania style Metroid 2, which is going to be apparently it's going to be a remastering, essentially a remake of the Super Metroid from the Game Boy.
Oh yeah,
Metroid 2.
Metroid 2: The Return of Samus. I think it was called. Yeah. I think it looks pretty cool. Especially they have added some elements from Other M, like the way that you can counter and toss enemies around, but they've added it so like sparingly that it doesn't kind of sully the game at all. I think it looks super cool. I like that combination of kind of a little bit of Twitch gameplay in there with the normal Metroid exploration and everything. So yeah, I think it's gonna be badass. It's nice that they announced 2 Metroid games. I never thought I'd see 2 of them announced.
Nobody was expecting to hear Metroid. Everyone was expecting to be disappointed and be like, "Oh, okay, come on, bring out Pikmin, bring out something I don't give a shit about." Bring out. I mean, obviously they talked about Splatoon 2, but again, it's iterative. It's not really worth talking about. Splatoon's fine. It's fun.
Yeah, it is a fun game.
It doesn't hype me for anything, but if I had a Switch and there was a new Splatoon game, I would get it because it's fun. But I'm not going to be like gushing about it. But holy shit, Super Mario Odyssey looks amazing.
It really does.
They haven't evolved Mario since Galaxy, and that's a long time ago. The Wii was a fucking long time ago.
Yeah, when was Galaxy 2? Like 2011, 2012-ish?
Maybe even before then. I think it might have been
really?
2000.
2010. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is 2010, and the original Galaxy is 2007. Wow.
Yeah. And it's the last innovation on the franchise, and I like 3D Land was fine, but it was fine, but it didn't evolve. It didn't go kind of like, because you had nothing. There wasn't Sunshine for me. I mean, like you had like Super Mario 3D, Super Mario 64 was great, was a real game changer, even though by modern standards it's clunky and it doesn't control well, but back in the day it was amazing. And Sunshine was good. It was good. It was a bit different. It felt a bit different to me having it, in an open world that was populated by the little weird plant creatures. But I mean, they added that squirt gun and the jetpack and everything, and that was fun. It didn't feel as much of an evolution though.
I think as far as like the core like abilities that Mario had, I think Sunshine was the best because he had so many different moves. Because compared to Sunshine, Galaxy is pretty basic. I mean, you just have a jump and a spin, and then you have like the long jump and the backflip or whatever. But in Sunshine, you could just get around environments in so many different ways. So I in this one, it seems like they've implemented a lot of like the different abilities that he had in Sunshine into a game that's actually worthy of Mario. I'm not saying that Sunshine was a bad game, because it is a good game.
That's what I'm saying. There's something about it that was missing greatness.
Yeah, it's subpar for Mario, I think.
And it was an innovation, and it was good. But it's like it didn't take me by storm like Galaxy did.
Yeah.
Galaxy just made me feel like, oh shit, this is next gen Mario, and nothing has evolved since. And they've just gone backwards and just rehashed the old games. So this looking, I mean, for guys, look at the trailer for this. It's just the fact that the hat is sentient and you throw it on stuff and then you control the thing the hat lands on. And there's a Rob the Robot, and there's T-Rex and rabbits, and he gets to be a Mexican. And
That's always
it's
great.
just, yeah. But even like there's lots of homages to one of the Mario Golf games where he's in like an American flag costume. That's in there. There's the weird there's the Egyptian explorer Mario costume. That's from another, which game that's from.
I think he had a Hammer Bros costume as well.
Yeah, there's
Fucking
loads,
Hammer
so
Bros.
much.
Love the
And
Hammer
the
Bros.
chef costume. There's so many callbacks to Mario's history. And if this game plays well, because when they first announced it and they showed Mario in the real world, I was like, oh my god, no. Because also then, like, hang on, isn't he meant to be from the real world? This is weird. Or are we just taking the Super Mario Brothers movie too much to heart because there's no real story for Mario?
I'm pretty sure he is from a normal universe. The Mario versus Donkey Kong series kind of fleshed that out a little bit because I think what's her name is in, like, the chick from the original Donkey Kong is actually in that game, and that game was on like the DS. But yeah, that was like a different world, like the real world, and then it wasn't happening in the Mushroom Kingdom. It's just
Mario was a monkey abuser turned hero. Terrible monkey abuser. It looks like a massively fun love letter to Mario, and it again, who knows at this point because so little is known, but I really have hope for this game. I really have hope that this will. I didn't get a Wii U. And I really would get a Switch on the back of this, on the back of Other M. That's on the back of Other M. Jesus Christ, Prime 4.
I would hope not.
Wash my mouth out saying Other M. Jesus, Other M is the devil. But just on the back of that alone, I mean, hell, even just the new Zelda game's great. That's enough of a console shifter. Like, there's a lot of reasons for me to get a Switch now, and I know there's not the biggest catalogue of games, but for 4 or 5 exceptional games, I will buy a console.
It already has some of the best games of the year easily, if not some of the best games in like the last few years, and it hasn't even been out a year yet. I mean, we already have like a mainline Zelda. We're getting a mainline Super Mario
Even though,
game.
to be fair, it was the mainline Zelda that should have been out on the Wii U.
Yeah, it honestly should have, but both those games alone are worth getting the Switch for, which I still don't own yet either. I'm gonna pick it up
at some point, but yeah, if there's, especially if there's a Pokemon RPG, new Xenoblade game, Metroid Prime, a new Mario game that really kind of like ups the game and creates something new and exciting, yeah, I'll totally buy a Switch for that. That is enough of a library for me to buy that. But yeah, I'm totally interested now in a Switch. I mean, I was before, but now it's like, okay. Before, a lot of people have joked that it's, that Zelda machine's pretty good. Because there was nothing but Zelda. I was like, that's what you buy it for. And now it's now building, not only it's building to have just, it's fine, it doesn't get third-party support. I don't care. The best third-party support that they could do is create that Rabbids XCOM game. Like, I wouldn't buy a console for that, but I'll totally buy the arse off it if I have the console for it. And for a lot of the people, kind of seeing online and kind of like across social media and across people that I talk to, most people were losing their shit over Nintendo. This year, they didn't even show all that much, but what they showed was just, I mean, it was so small in compared to like Xbox. Microsoft just hammered so much stuff, and there was a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff I'm not that interested in, but a lot of stuff I was really into. And Nintendo was just wow, yes. There was very little like, no, I don't care. Everything that they listed was like, okay, well, you have my attention. And then when they came out with Prime 4, I was like, shit!
That's what it was all about. They easily took this E3 for me. It was just not really much of a contest, honestly. As a
guy who's got a ridiculous amount of PlayStation games, from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 4, Sony had the shittest of the console developers.
Yeah, they really did, and they usually do
weak.
A lot more too.
It was weak, comparatively weak. Xbox was very heavy on third-party support, but they had an alright conference. They didn't do anything silly name for the Xbox One X.
They just had that one cringy moment with that one dude.
Oh yeah, that MOBA style.
Yeah, that one where he just like comes out and then fades back into the darkness at the end, like no introduction or outro. It's just like, well, see you guys.
That's another beauty of E3 is if you're gonna watch it live, you don't watch. I don't recommend watching it to get hype about games, because most of the things you're excited for are not coming for a long time. So it's not one for getting. It's one for going ooh, but like watching people in all these kind of spurgs in the industry coming out on a presentation all nervous and then fucking up. Like the guy who said X-Bone on the Microsoft stage was just one of the highlights of E3 for me. And then the guy who was trying to sell the Crew 2 was just hilarious.
Oh my god, I didn't
hilariously bad presentation. So bad. It was just, oh my god, it was awful. But that's the beauty of it. What was it a few years ago? There was was it for Killer Instinct? And there was some like a big controversy because what was said while playing. There's either a sexist comment or something, and it caused this massive blowout.
Holy shit, yeah, I forgot all about that. I think the guy said it'll be over soon or something like that.
That's it. Don't just relax. It'll be over soon. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, rape joke!" And everyone just went mental. I was like, "That's what E3 is good for: insane controversy when it's not kind of witch hunting. It's hilarious."
Yeah, honestly, this time around there wasn't much as far as controversy. Like there wasn't much that they could use for controversy, which is why.
No. I mean, I saw a lot of people they were arguing about look at how many games have violence in. I was like, shut up. Conflict resolution and overcoming challenges is a core part of games. A core part of humanity is role playing that through violence. Sorry, we're a violent species. Conflict resolution in fantasy and fiction is often done through violence.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's better us doing it in a digital world than in a coliseum like we used to back in the day. So
I'd rather do that. I'd rather do that or do paying getting people to do in sports teams. Paying for them to compete for the braying crowds. That's better than feeding them to fucking lions. I mean, it's just a better evolution. I think we've evolved a little from that point. I think slightly evolved.
Yeah, slightly. I mean, still super tribalistic, so that kind of fucking sucks. But what are you gonna do?
But ultimately, I think that just about wraps up our first episode. How about that? First time round, and guys, if you've made it this far, thanks a lot for watching. Want to hear some feedback because this is a whole new concept, and we just want to evolve and kind of do something that makes us feel excited and happy about games again.
Yeah, I mean, I think this worked pretty well, getting me kind of hyped up about things.
I actually feel more positive. Normally, I can't have E3, and I still do. If I'm going to ask me how's E3, I'd come back and go, eh. A lot of stuff that was just, that's the same game that came out last year. Not all that exciting to me. But there's plenty in there when you look to go, okay. Even if it's just, oh, okay, that's interesting. Or even, oh shit, I like the idea. Be good, please.
Metroid, please be good. Don't fail me. Don't fail me.
Metroid, don't fail me now. But so thanks everybody who watched this, and like I said earlier, before when we tried to wind up last time, give us some feedback. Let us know how you feel. We want to try and evolve this and incorporate a few segments and a few different bits and have some people involved and create a few gimmicks to do with it itself. Just because why not? See how it goes. Thanks a lot for listening, guys.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very kindly for watching and listening, everyone. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow Chris at Gaming Anarchist, and you can follow me at Atrophy of Soul. And if you want to follow the podcast Twitter page, you can just go to @shitpod, and you should find it there. Once again, thank you very kindly for watching. Be sure to have yourselves a fine day, and we will see you all next time.